Kadosh. Boker Or, Masechet Gittin Daf, Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph 73a1. Says the Gemara, Vakamash Mana. We learn from here. Dalach al mishanto de ba'inan umdana. If a person comes and they're walking on a cane, they need a umdana. We need an evaluation if they're met, they were still passing away from the original sickness or not. Idach, right? But after, if a person does not go in the shuk, meaning another person that doesn't walk in the shuk, umdana nami lo beidin, you don't even know umdana. Meaning only because he was walking in the shuk, but he's going on mishanto, you need the umdana. But behemet, if he wasn't going into the shuk, you don't even need to evaluate him. Shema Mayina, we learn from here. Are you going to tell me then that means if a shchiv mera goes from one sickness to another sickness, so his present is a good present? Answers the Gemara, yes. Tamar bi Elazar, says bi Elazar, name of Rav, shchiv mera shendem mechol lechol, it's a good matana. Meaning, as long as he didn't get out of the shchiv mera and he was going from one sickness, that means imagine, he started with COVID, he finished with the heart, or the opposite. He started with a heart, he finished with a COVID. Or he started with this, doesn't matter what. He went from one sickness to another sickness, it's still the same thing. What does that mean? His present is a good present. Rabba v'Rava lo sfilu leha lehu ad Rav Huna. So Rabba and Rava, they didn't hold this thing of Rav Huna, right? Of basically a shchimira that gives a get to his wife and then he gets up and so on and so on. It's chagum batel. Why? Because they said it's gezerah. What's a gezerah? The gezerah is maybe there's a get lachamita. People are going to say, you know what? You could give a get after death. So because of that, they didn't like this. Because once a person comes and he says, did he get up from the sickness? Don't get up from the sickness. They didn't want people to start saying, you know what? You could give a get after death. No, there's no such thing. So one said, I don't understand. Does it exist? The midoraita, it's not a get. Right? Why is it? Because it's batel. And because of a gezerah, that people are going to say that there's a get lachar mita, you're going to permit an eshet ish to the world? Midin Torah, if the get is batel, the woman's an eshet ish. So how do the rabbis come and they say, you know what? Now she's permitted. It's good. It's okay. How do you do that? She's a married woman. Answers Gemara, yes, they could annul it. Why? Kol de mekadesh adata de rabbanan mekadesh. Anybody that gets married, you get married al dat rabbanan. Meaning you're getting married, but the rabbis agree to it. Sure. And therefore the rabbis come and they take away the kiddushin from him. Meaning some people think, what do I care about the rabbis? And the answer is, when you come and you say, Harea mekudesh li, betabad zo kedat Moshe v'Yisrael, it means that the rabbis have the power to make the marriage or break the marriage. People think, what strength do the rabbis have? You know what the strength of the rabbis have? The rabbis just right now came and they have a married woman because the get was not a good get. And they annulled the kiddushin. They annulled that she was never married, kiddush. And the rabbis have the power of doing so. So Elmaleh Ravina the Rashi says, Ravina the Rashi, one second. I understand. They did a kiddushin with money, with a ring. They do that. Why? Because the rabbis can make hefker. So they could take somebody's money and say, you know what, it was hefker. He went and he got married to her with his money, it was a great man hefker. Kaddish b'biyah, Michael. What about if somebody's going to do kiddushin with biyah? Obviously nowadays you can't do kiddushin with biyah. The Gemara, she brings down Rav, right? Rav Mangi, the Manke de Kadesh biyah. What does that mean? Rav came and used to give floggings. You know what flogging is? Makot. Somebody that does kiddushin with biyah, they get makot. Biyah, relations. Meaning he comes and he says, I'm going to get married to you with these relations.
So once they have relations, it's married.
Yeah, and therefore
so today everybody will get married to everybody.
Right? So he comes and he says, they get floggings. Yeah? So he says, Elmaleh, he comes and he says, Shavua Rabbanan Bi'ilato Bi'ilat Znut. The rabbis made the Bi'ilah like Bi'ilat Znut. That means he made it like he had immorality. Meaning, it wasn't that he was doing L'Shem Yichuk Shab Yichuk, being a tzaddik gamur, that he wants to get married to her through this. He was trying to fool around. That's what they come in this. That's what the rabbis were able to make, that his biyah was biyat znut. It was immorality. That's what he was trying to do. No kavanah, exactly. So, Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita, imagine a person comes and he says, you know what, this is a get if he dies from the sickness. All of a sudden, a house falls. Champlain Towers. Falls. Or the Nachash comes and bites him. Says the Gemara, and he'll get, it's not a get. Why? He didn't die from the holy. He died from something else. Right? But if he says, this is going to be your get today if he does not get up from this sickness and then nafal alav habayit or ikishu nachash, Get. It is a good get. Why? Because he never got out from the sickness. That means even though the death was another cause of death, meaning on the death certificate it's going to be written a different cause, but the condition was not if he dies from the sickness. The condition was if he doesn't get up from the sickness. And he didn't get up from that sickness. I don't care what happened afterwards, but he didn't get up from the sickness. What's the difference between the Reisha and the Seifa?
12 months, same thing.
So Shalchu mitam, they come and they send from over there. Achalo ari. What happens if the lion came and he ate him up? So en lanu, so we don't know that it's going to be a get. Why? Because the husband is never going to come and think that a lion will come and eat him up. So it comes out that the Girsan, the Seifa of the Braita is a little bit, what does that mean? And then what's going on exactly? It's very, you understand, like what's going on exactly, right? What's the difference between them? So obviously it has to be like a type of an honest that it's not normal. You understand? Something which is not normal. A person will never think of such a thing. You understand? So once happened, right, that a person comes and he sold a field to his friend. And he accepted upon himself any honest. He went and he said, anything that happens force majeure, it's on me. So imagine, I sell you a field, it's a good field. All of a sudden, the Sof of Kubanara, at the end, all of a sudden the king comes and he says, make a river going straight through the field. Right? So they came in front of Ravina. Amale, he tells him, Zil Shapile, go put, right? Go give it to him quietly. Why? You accepted upon yourself, right? Any onus that came out. Which means the fact that he comes and you accept it upon yourself, right? Then he's basically told him, you have to give him another field. I apologize. Now the guy's going to say, listen, do you think I was going to know that the king is going to come and make a river right in the middle of the field? You accept it upon yourself. That's it. That's it. Nothing what to do. One second, but that's called an honest loshkech, meaning, do you know that there's something which is called force majeure, but there's an honest which is common and something which is not common. Meaning certain things are common. Certain things are not common. You understand? Somebody to be struck by lightning. It's a one in I don't know what. Or that, meaning that there's certain things which are common. A traffic accident, that could be common, right? But somebody being, I don't know what happened, that somebody, certain things are common. So there should be a difference also. So he went in front of Rava, meaning the word, they started rolling until it got to Rava. Amalu, and he says, so one second, so Ravina comes and he asks Rava, how does it get? 1 second, there also. He says, what? Do you think a person was thinking that the house was going to collapse on him? Or that all of a sudden a snake will come and bite him? What's going on? Rava says, 1 second, what about the Reisha? The Reisha, it says, it's not a get. Because you have a question from the Reisha to the Seifa, you can't ask a question. Meaning at the end of the day, I have a question on it. So not because you have a question, you can't ask another question. He told him, yes. Since there's already a stira between the Reisha and the Seifa, lo itmar b'midrasha, it wasn't taught in the Bet Midrash, u'mishabashtahi, the zil batar svara. So therefore you have to go after the svara. Meaning this, if you have a Mishnah, and there's going to be a contradiction, an outright contradiction in the Mishnah between the former part and the latter part, between the Reisha and the Seifa, it means that it couldn't have been said in the Bet Midrash, because if not, in the same Bet Midrash, it would have said, Aywa. It's not like you're teaching me something, a Mishnah, in a completely different Masechet. It's in the same Mishnah. And you're going to tell me it's contradiction? It doesn't make sense. So because of that, for sure, mishabashta, it wasn't taught properly. There was a mistake there, and therefore you can't bring a proof from it. So you have to go after the svara. Another case also. They went and they bought shumshamim, sesame seeds, on Sfat Nar Malka, on the riverbanks of Nar Malka. Agur malacheli bruini. They got sapanim. Sapanim are the sailors, right, to bring them to the other side of their house. Kabilu, they said, you know what, we accept upon ourselves anything that happens. Lesof, at the end, istachar nahar malka. They went and they made like a dam, and therefore they weren't able to go through. Right? Amru lehu, they went and they said, Aguru chamre afkarinu ni'ala. You have to come and you have to get chamurim to come and to take you around. Right? You guys accepted upon yourself everything. So that's it. It's your fault now. Atu lekamed Rava, they came in front of Rava. Amar lehu, he comes and he tells them, Kake chivre, avazim levanim. Right? What does that mean? Avazim levanim, he comes and he says, they were elderly people. That's why he called them like an avaz, like the goats, like the ducks are the white. They come, they take off their clothing, which means they're poskim shelo kadin. Again, it's an honest lo shchiach. So you see from here that something which is an honest lo shchiach, they never accept it. Meaning, and by the way, that's in halachos. I come and I'm going to say, you know what? You have to come and you have to work by me. Yeah, and all of a sudden something happened. Yeah, let's say it started raining, so you couldn't work. It could be they have to pay you because I told you to come and work. You traveled, you came here. Now, if it starts, but you should have, you know. But what else is something abnormal?
Really?
So honest lo shchiach changes the halacha. Why? Because there's a real force majeure. And by the way, you should know that happens in everything. Right? You come, you should know all insurance policies. They come and they start writing down in the little tiny dots that you can't even see. Right? That they try to do it in another language, and as long as you sign, you sign. The what? The kilu? No, but if this happens and this happens, they don't want that. Honest lo shchiach. If you want to come, they want to become patur. Fine. Next Mishnah. Mishnah I'm giving a mudalef from the bottom. Lo titiyached imo lebifnei edim. Do you know that a woman cannot have yichud with the husband unless there's edim? What does that mean? If a husband comes and he says, Ze gitech me'ayom, right? Imati. So he gave her the get. He says, this is your get today if he dies. Right? What happens? From then on, they can't have yichud. Why? Because if they're going to have yichud, right? And then what happens? So all of a sudden, there's going to be a problem because then he would need another get.
Rabbi, there is a condition.
Yeah? 1 second. Afilu al pi eved, or afilu al pi shivcha, chutz mi shivchata. He says, even in front of, right, in the ed, it has to be here. She's going to be mutar to have yichud in front of one ed, right? Even if it's going to be bifnei eved, or even a shivcha, except for her shivcha. Because her shivcha, she's so close to her shivcha, she knows her mistress. She can have relations with the husband, nothing will happen. If it's going to be another shivcha or another eved, it's going to be okay. Right? 1 second. What exactly is she during those days then? At the end of the day, he didn't die, but she got the get. So what is she? Rabbi Yehuda says, I'm giving her bet. Like an eshet ish. What does that mean? That means right now, somebody has relations with her. Chenek. B'shogeg chayav chatat. Right? Like eshet ish, everything normal. 100%. She's married to normal. So Rabbi Yosef says, no. Megureshet zeno megureshet. It's a safek. It's a safek whether she's divorced or not divorced. And therefore, if somebody has relations with her b'shogeg, Hashem talui. Right? Just like a safek eshet ish. Right? And also, you can't really 100% kill him, because it wasn't 100%. So if you come out and you have a machloket, what is her status quo during these days? Okay, that's says the Gemara. If we see, right, that means there's a din, that they saw that she accepted the get, and then she had relations, ba'afela, in the discreet, or she slept with him in the same bed. We're not going to suspect that they had relations. Maybe he just had stam znut. We're not going to suspect of kiddushin. No, we do suspect because of kiddushin. My kama, what does that mean exactly? Amar Rav Nachman Amar Ravua says Nachman Ravua. But this is what he say. If we see that she had relations, we suspect that there was kiddushin. Natana ksafim. If he gave her money, we're going to suspect that it was because of znut. Meaning, if he had to pay her for it, it was probably znut. But if it's just some relations, it's probably kiddushin again. But he probably gave it to her as a etnan zonah. It's called etnan, like it's a present to have it. We're not going to suspect it. Says the Yosef Omer, we always are going to suspect mishum kiddushin. So keman azaha, damar Rav Chanan Rav Yochanan hamachloket. According to everybody, we don't need to get shani. Keman, he says like everybody. So matkifla Abaya comes and he asks this is a question. Midik ksafim ktani. Are we going to tell me now we're talking about ksafim? Elamar Abaya, but rather Abaya says, Hachima, this is what he say. If we saw that she had relations, we're going to suspect because of znut, and we're not going to suspect because of kiddushin. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, we're going to suspect for kiddushin. That means even without money, forget about the money now. Machloket, do we suspect for kiddushin or not suspect because of kiddushin? So so who does this go like that? Which Rabbi Chanan says in Yochanan. Machloket is kisheru shenivala. But if you didn't see her that she had relations, according to everybody, he doesn't need another get. Come on, what does this go like? Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. So Matkif la Rava. Rava comes and he asks the following question. Again, if so, my af koshin. What does it mean? Also, we suspect for kiddushin. What is it also? Elamar Rava, but rather Rava says, this is what I'm saying. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda says, af lo ra'u hashenivala. Even if we didn't see that she had relations, choshim mishum kiddushin. We do suspect that she had kiddushin. Keman azah hadam r'chanan yochanan machloket is when you saw that she had the relations. But if she didn't see the relations, so then what? According to everybody, she doesn't need a get. Keman delo kechad, not like anybody. So says the Gemara, okay, fine. Ma hi beotana yamin. Now we're going to go back to what we said in the Mishnah. What is she during those days? Rabbi Yehuda says, Eshatish chol dvareha. Eshatish, she's completely married. She didn't get any divorce. She didn't get nothing. It was like on a standby. But until the standby, there's nothing what's happening. Right? So that's what Rabbi Yehuda says. Rabbi Yosef argues and he says, no. Megureshet v'no megureshet. Tana uvilvad shiamut. Meaning, even according to, right, what we're talking about now, it's only if, even according, meaning, Rabbi Yosef is not going to argue if he never died. Meaning, what happens right now if Behemet, she fooled around? Whether it's by accident, right? And so then it wasn't fooling around, it was accident, or Behemet, she did fool. Even according to Rabbi Yosef, the guy never died. There's nothing to talk about. And that means for sure the condition had to be fulfilled. The only question is, do you retroactively come and say, to listen, at the end, she didn't do an Avirah? Like, where do we see something very similar? You remember? We went and we said that what happens if a woman comes and she made a neder? She comes and she says, I'm not going to eat meat. And then she comes and she ate meat. Now, she doesn't know that the husband came and he already did hatarat nedarim. So we went and we said that she needs to do she had to do teshuvah because of the kavanah that she had. But fine, she has to do a kapara. But Hechal Masechet she didn't do an avirah, meaning that I can't kill her for it. So the question is here, you're right. If it was done by Shogeg, it was not even a kavanah that, yeah. But let's say she did it b'chavanah. L'shem yichud that she did it b'chavanah. Yeah? Mamash. L'shem yichud shabrichu, ushchimteh, bidchilu, urchimu. Be'ema v'ira, be'ava v'ira. She's doing it b'avirah. But then at the end, she didn't really do the avirah because he died, and therefore, retroactively, she was not a neshatish. But at the end of the day, that means he had to die. And the question is, what happens now? Right? Did she do an avirah? Not to do it. Retroactively, she was divorced. So he comes and he says, Tana uvilvad shemut. It has to be that the guy died. Ulchimai tavegita. Says the Gemara, 1 second. When he dies, that's when it's going to be Hechal. I thought you told me that it can be a get after the mitah. Amar Rabba says, Beomer, he comes and he says that the get is going to be Hechal me'et shani ba'olam. Meaning he said, Ze gitech v'itkarshi bo me'et shani ba'olam imati. This is the get, and you're going to be divorced from the time that he's in the world if he dies. Meaning that is the machloka between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yosef, if she's an eshetish gemura or safek eshetish. Because basically he's saying that it's as long as it's still in the world, but it can't just be that's a stam, right? Because in such a case, right, Be'emet, everybody agrees that it's going to be chal mafreya, mishata nitina, which means that Rabba comes and he says a huge chidush. I want you to read inside. Right? Rabba comes and he says, this Mishnah is talking about a case where he says, Zegitech me'ayom imati, shebemikre kaze be'emet, hakol modim, shaget chal mafreya mishata netina. Ve'abal ha'isha patur. Meaning, if he just said the words of the Mishnah, Zegitech me'ayom imati, according to what Rabba with a hey says, according to everybody, she's ptura. She fooled around, she's ptura. What is the machloket between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yosef? If he says me'et shani ba'olam, meaning he says zegitech v'itgarshi bo, he doesn't say me'ayom. He doesn't say from today. He says me'et shani ba'olam, that he's still alive, meaning it could still be one moment maybe before he dies. But be'emet, in the case where he said me'ayom, it comes out that even Rabbi Yehuda would agree be'emet that she's not an eshetish according to Shtat Rabbah. Okay, so he says the Gemara is actually going to bring the Braita, and he's going to actually explain it right later on. But that Bezat Hashem will continue tomorrow with the 2 dots.